Namaste, everyone. Thank you for being here, live and online. We started a new series last week based on the Kleshas. Now, if you were to Google Kleshas, I just want to say this up front, you're probably going to first find that the Buddhist lineage has something called Kleshas. This is not the same thing, because in the Buddhist tradition, the Kleshas are more, and I don't have them all memorized, but they're more like depression, jealousy, anger. It's almost like more emotions that drive it. In yoga, when we look at our yogic philosophy in the sutras, it mentions 5 categories of kleshas. Now, just to tell you what kleshas are, in case you weren't with me last week, kleshas are the mental afflictions that can cause, or that can become the root cause of our suffering. And so in yogic philosophy, what we're trying to do whenever we have pain in the body, whenever we're agitated in the mind, whenever we are feeling really emotional and it's creating some type of suffering, what we try to do is figure out what is the root cause of that. We may have gotten triggered by something today, but that may not be the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem could go back years in your childhood even. So that's what we're trying to investigate. That's what we're trying to discover about our own self. Okay, so with the kleshas, if it's the mental afflictions that are the root cause of suffering, we have 5 categories. And last week we focused on the first one, avidya. Hi, Mary. Come on in, grab 2 blocks. And, the one we're going to be talking about today is the second one listed, and it's egoism. So egoism is something that we all experience to some degree and at some level at some point in time. And it may be something that you're actually facing every day, depending on the personality. So the ego is basically false identification. False identification towards yourself, towards your role, towards your title, towards your possessions. And when we're looking at egoism, there's a spectrum of it, right? Because if we are thinking we are less than, right? Say for instance, okay, I wasn't this way, but I'm going to pretend I was this way. Pretend I'm in high school and I have no athletic ability. Right, I didn't play any sports in high school, but if I was going to a school that was all about the sports and all the attention was put upon the athletes, how's that going to make me feel? A little less than, right? And on the other end of the spectrum, when we're talking about egoism, we can also get inflated in our ego and get really boastful about what we possess and about our title or whatever. And we're thinking we're better than, right? We're on a pedestal, higher and looking down on everybody else. Either one of those extremes can cause suffering. So it goes beyond that. I'm going to give you just a few examples. So for instance, my son got bold and brave. He's been crushing on this girl for 2 years. 2 years. And he finally decided right before he was going into high school, right before she was going into high school, because he had heard her mom say she could not date till high school. Even though he had crushed on her for 2 years, he waited and he got bold, he got brave, and he asked her out. She said yes, they're like best friends. And then 2 hours later, and he was on cloud 9, he called my parents, he called his dad, like cloud 9, like pacing the house, like thinking about what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? And you know, and I was having fun with him, playing with it because her mom is one of my best friends. So we're like, oh, we're gonna plan it, it's gonna be great. Like, and 2 hours later, he got a text from her saying, she didn't want to go out with him after all, that they were such close friends. She didn't want to ruin the friendship and that she wasn't ready to date. And he was crushed. he sent me a text in the house. He was in his room. So I went straight up to his room and I went in there and I talked to him. And a little bit later, Ella went in to check on him. She said he had a candle burning and sad music playing. And she came downstairs to make me hot chocolate. It was really, really sweet. But yesterday was the first time he's seen her since he asked her out. He hasn't seen her. And I just drove in from North Carolina and I'm doing some Reiki master training with her mom. And I need Gabe to go with me. I'm like, we're going straight to Allison's. Like, we don't have time. Like, I gotta go to the training, you're coming, and you know, and we actually did have time to go by the house because I picked up Ella so that he could have his wingman. And we talked about it on the way there. And he's like, Mom, I'm so nervous. I'm like, of course you're nervous. You haven't seen her since that conversation. And I was like, but I'm so proud of you because you have a good attitude and you've maintained your friendship with her. They've talked on the phone and they've texted each other. And I said, you know, you're manning up. This is such a great life lesson. You're not allowing her say no to you, even though it hurt you, like you really wanted this. You didn't let it disrupt what you've already created with her. And I'm like, she could be that girl that just stays your friend. And that's just as important as you getting a girlfriend. So anyway, you know, I'm sure it bruised his ego. I know it bruised his ego, but he manned up about it. I was so proud of him. Thinking also about the ego, I went through an ego death last year, right? I didn't know that's what it was. But when I when I had to close the business and then I moved to Nashville, I mean, there was a lot of changes happening all at once, and it wasn't anything that I had really planned or prepared for. And my body just hurt so bad. It showed up as mega pain in my body. And I knew it was an energetic emotional response to all that because I could connect the dots. I'm aware enough of my body to know that's what it connected to. But it wasn't until maybe 6 months ago I recognized it was an ego death. I don't think I was an inflated egoic person by any means, but it was a death of the ego because I did, you know, lose my creation and lose my business, and I lost my title, and I lost my kind of leadership role, and I lost my connections with people. Like there were a lot, I mean, we all did to some degree, but I recognized, wow, that was an ego death, really. And I think during points in different times of our life, we all have to go through that to some degree. But I want you to consider as we go through our practice today, how the ego can create suffering. And if we recognize that's what it is, it's actually something easy to work with, as long as you're, you know, in a healthy mindset and you're doing practices like this. Because the whole point of yoga and meditation is to peel back the layers and to recognize I'm not my name, I'm not my personality, I'm not my possessions, I'm not even my gender, I'm not this race. I'm really not any of these things at the core and essence of who I truly am. And at the core and the essence of who you really are, you're just a soul. And a soul is not gendered masculine or feminine, white or black, rich or poor. You just are. You just exist. You're an infinite, powerful, light body. And so that's what we're trying to discover. And that's why this philosophy is so important. Whether or not we're on this level of the ego spectrum or this level of the ego spectrum. Now the ego, I'm not totally downplaying the ego, we need the ego. And the ego is something that's healthy and positive to get us to a certain point in life. We need that. We need the ego to help us figure out what we're gonna do. We need the ego to help us to figure out how much drive and perseverance we're gonna have to achieve what we want. But we just can't let it become a detriment to us. We can't let it cause suffering. And so that's what the yogis are talking about. There was another example. There is, but I shared that one in the last class and I shared Gabe in this one, so I feel good about that. Let's go ahead and roll down to our back. And let's come to a corpse position with the hands resting on the solar plexus or the upper part of the belly. Your arms can splay open. That way your shoulders stay broad and your elbows land to the floor. Your feet can separate. Your eyes can close. Let's just take a moment to reflect on the message today. So over the weekend, visiting my family, I recognized how, my dad, because of his stroke, because of his aging, because of what he's lost physically and verbally, he could be sitting around just depressed, but he's not. He's actually in a neutral and somewhat happy place. And think about how much our society, how much value they place on just our looks alone. And how just the aging process of getting wrinkles and starting to develop pains in our joints and, or just our bodies changing in general, how that can affect the ego and how that can create suffering. It may be showing up in other ways. And just reflect on how it shows up in your life. And then I want you to start some deep diaphragmatic breaths. Allow the belly to balloon up and down as you breathe in. Allow the belly to soften and retract as you breathe out. There's so many benefits towards this diaphragmatic breathing. And just one of these is bringing the breath down into this region that is said to be the seat of the ego, the solar plexus. Breathing in a diaphragmatic way helps shift us towards the parasympathetic nervous system, where we're less stressed, less worried, less competitive, less caught up in the cross comparison, where we're more centered. More in a state of union of the true self within. Let's take a cleansing breath together. Breathe in through your nose. Let it pour out through your mouth. Let's begin. Bring the feet together. Stretch through the tops of the feet from the toes. Reach the arms out and up overhead, creating a morning stretch. Lifting through the low back. And then exhale, hug your knees into your belly and chest. Coming into Appanasana, wind release pose. Now this brings some compression to the belly. This helps to reduce any excess air in our digestive system. But I want you to think today about wrapping your arms around with myetry, radical self-acceptance. Knowing that you are not less than or better than, you are enough. Inhale, reach the arms to your sides, lift the feet towards the sky. When you extend your legs up in the air, you're going to exhale, flex the ankles, and separate the legs wide open. Inhale, zip the legs back together, and then exhale, hug the knees into your belly and chest. We're going to continue this flow. Inhale, arms open out, legs lift up. Exhale, legs open wide. Inhale, draw the legs back together. And exhale, Apanasana. Myetry, radical self-acceptance. Inhale, arms stand open, legs lift up. Exhale, V-shape the legs. Exhale, close them together. And exhale, hug them in. We're going to do one more on our own. Now sink your left foot gently to the floor. Release the hands from the right knee and cross it over the left thigh. Now you are welcome to stay here, but if you want to go deeper, pick up your left foot, lace your hands behind your left thigh, squeezing it in towards the upper body. Pausing here, holding your position, and stay mindful and aware of your breath. Since you're on your back and you're grounded, feel free to close your eyes and notice the effect it has on your body, where the concentration of the sensation exists, whether or not you need to let go a little or deepen a little according to what your experience is. So the second chakra is about our emotional and sexual identity. So even that is, in essence, part of the ego. It could be false identification. One more deep breath. At the end of that exhale, you're going to land your left foot. Open your arms out wide again. And allow the left knee to roll to the floor, but also flatten the right foot with it. And the right knee is staying elevated towards the ceiling. So notice the main part of the twist is more in the lower lumbar area, but it's starting to lift up towards the mid-back. Inhale, draw back to center, and then roll to the inner edge of your left foot. Let your right ankle stay stacked on top of your left knee to weigh it down. Noticing how the twist is affecting you on this side. We just went through a whole series based on the chakras, so it's super important to notice where you have elements such as pain or discomfort showing up in the postures. Inhale, draw back to center. Uncross the right ankle. Hug the knees back in. Myetry, radical self-acceptance. Open your arms into a T. Let the knees roll off to the left. And breathe. Bring that rotation up into your neck, but stay mindful. If your right shoulder is not touching down, then roll the head to the left shoulder. If the right shoulder is grounded, try turning your head that direction. Notice the deeper variation of this twist. Notice how far up the back it comes. Notice how it comes up into the rib cage. Focus on following your breath as it waves up and down your right side body. Inhale, turn the head to center. Let your knees roll back through center. Ground your feet. Let's take that sequence to the other side. Left ankle is going to cross over the right knee. Pick up that right foot. Place your hands behind your right thigh bone. Drawing it towards your upper body if that feels available. Now noticing on this side. The cross comparison that we're doing between the two sides is not like the cross comparison that feeds or damages the ego. It's basically just getting to know your body better and to know how life is showing up in the body, to know what you're working with. Maintain that controlled breath. Allow that to help you to cut away any tension, but also allow that to keep you in the side of the nervous system that keeps you calm and focused. Now let's go ahead and release the right foot to the floor. Fan your arms open and roll to the outer edge of the right foot down to your right thigh and knee. So the sole of the left foot to the left knee stays elevated. The breath is so vital for creating that inner alchemy. Inhale, let's roll back to the sole of the right foot, crossing through center to roll to the inner edge of the right foot, down to your left thigh, keeping the left foot stacked as a little weight bearing, taking the twist a little deeper. Inhale, go ahead and draw back through center. Uncross the left ankle, hug both knees in, Apanasana. Lengthening the low back. Open your arms one last time to roll the knees over together to the right, and they can stay stacked. Check in with the left shoulder before you turn your head. If the left shoulder is grounded, try turning your head that way. And if it's lifted a little, or if that's your problem shoulder, I would turn the other way. Follow the wave of the breath up and down your left side body. Go ahead and roll to your right side. Lower the left hand to the floor and gently come up. since I was mentioning my dad who had a massive stroke in 2019, I remember even in the hospital, if he couldn't even remember everyone in the room, he certainly remembered that he needed to be shaved and he needed his hair to be combed a certain way. That's how strong the ego can be, even after a stroke. No, he was a preacher. So he had to look a certain way, you know, present himself a certain way, and that part was still ingrained in him, which was wild to me. We're gonna set the feet ahead of the knees and then separate the feet wide, hold at the shins, and we're gonna balloon the heart through the knee, and the knees are gonna kind of bend open a little bit to give us space to move through. And then as we exhale, we draw the belly in, the knees slightly close, and we push back into the shoulder blades. So it's a seated cat-cow, basically. Inhale, come through to cow, creating a back bend. And exhale, rounding it out to catch stretch. 3 more. The inhalation drives us forward, and the exhalation pierces that navel in and tucks the chin to the chest. Last one. All right, and come to a comfortable sitting position. Bring your hands to prayer position at your heart. Lace your fingers together and lift the arms up overhead. Sit tall, crown of the head lifting up towards the hands, hands lifting up towards the heavens. Exhale, curve to one side of the back. Stay rooted in your seat. Inhale, come back through center, and exhale to the other side. Inhale up to the top, exhale, lower the left hand down, right arm overhead. And breathe. So my dad walks a little bit like Tim Conway when he does walk, otherwise he's just seated, you know, in his wheelchair or the couch or something. They finally got one of the beds that will lift him out of the bed, you know. And I think I was telling Beth, I was telling someone just a few minutes ago, inhale, come back through center, lace your hands, pump the wrist skyward. That, well, first of all, my friend Allison, who's a medium and psychic, she was like, your dad's body's hurting, you need to teach him some yoga. I'm like, how do you know? Of course you know, but how do you know? Curve over to the other side, land your right hand and roll that left palm to face downward. Sure enough, when I get home, my mom says, your dad's back's been hurting. I'm like, his back? And I'm like, oh, I can help with that. The spine is made to go in 6 directions. He's only going 1. And so sitting in his wheelchair, I'm like, you can do side stretches. You know, we were doing this in the chair. I taught him a twist in his chair. And then I was teaching him how to do the back bend. Inhale, bring it back up. Place the hands, reach it up. And then exhale, fan the arms down and around the body. All right, now we're gonna come up to stand. When you come up to stand, come to the top of your mat. And you're gonna separate your feet wider than hip distance. We're gonna do the twisting kriya. So have a soft bend in your knees for this. And the arms are limp and loose. And we're just twisting and churning from side to side.
See the rest of the class.
You can what?
I can see the rest of the class.
That's right.
This is Chrissy's favorite.
This is Chrissy's favorite.
Yes.
I love this too. Just think about how stiff the back can get. You know, even when we're holding a twist, you know, for a longer period of time, this can really bring up some looseness to those back muscles. I usually suggest to people, especially if I go into a corporate environment, when they're sitting for long periods of time, I'm like, oh, I can do this. Something so simple, but it can wake you up, it can loosen you up. It can help digestion, it can cleanse the lungs. It can energize you. All right, let's slow it down. And have the hands facing forward. Keep your eyes open because you're going to feel that burst of energy that's coming up to the brain. And so just let that kind of level out. I think of it like a snow globe, right? You shake it up and then it all needs time to settle back down. That's what I feel like after that positioning. Now bring the soles of the feet a little closer together. Hands to prayer position at your heart. Inhale, let the arms reach up to Urdhva Hastasana. And then exhale, palms together, and you're going to pour straight down through the middle. If you need blocks, use them. Otherwise, your arms can hang like a rag doll. But spread out your toes. Condition your feet down. Straighten and structure your legs, and loosen up your neck. Let it be more neutral. Inhale, come halfway up. Lengthen out through the vertebrae, shoulders back from the ears, and then exhale, roll back down. Uttanasana, affirming here, nothing and no one on this earth can hold me down or back, not even the grip of the ego. Inhale, lift halfway up. Find your blocks in case you need them. If you don't use blocks, it's okay. Yeah, you don't need blocks. Bend your left knee. If you need the blocks, if you're already feeling a lot of sensation, just keep your hands there. Otherwise, you can release and drape down more. Keeping the right leg straight, your left knee bent, working into that IT band. This is the Gallbladder Meridian. So I'm doing a Reiki master training right now, and it's 6 courses, and it's been fascinating. And I love it because it's all energy work. And even within this energy work, we're talking about chakras and meridians. And guess what? One of the ladies that runs the, I hope I'm saying this correctly, the OSHA Center at Vanderbilt.
Oh, she's right.
Yeah, she's in the training.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Oh, that's awesome. Inhale, lift halfway up. I've heard they're doing really good work. Now, it's okay if your hands need to rest on your legs, if you don't have blocks, but we're going to twist, sitting that right arm up. And if you're not feeling the IT band as much, it could be because the block's too high, or you may not need it at all. So take it to the point where you feel the work, but not where there's pain or strain. Remember, the whole point of yoga and meditation and the study of the Kleshas is to reduce suffering, not create it. Good. Exhale, bring the right hand down, and immediately straighten out your left leg, bend your right knee. We'll take that to the other side. One side's always more tight. It's your left.
So tight at my hammies since the race.
When I did some of these positions earlier today, I'm like, oh, there's my mom showing up. Because I just got back from the new family. And I noticed how she was re-indoctrinating my dad to everything that I was like, no, let him stay how he is right now. All right, let's take the twist. Bend the left arm out and up. Lengthen out through the spine, so tailbone pushes back, crown of the head reaches forward. Again, check in with the sensation. If you're not feeling as much, take it to the degree where you can at least feel it and still breathe easily through it. All right, exhale, slowly straighten out both legs, bow back into your Uttanasana, you're standing forward fold. Inhale, you're coming up to chair, Utkatasana. From Utkatasana, we're gonna breathe out slowly through the mouth. Take the arms back behind us. Inhale, chair. Exhale, slow breath out. Arms reach back and beside us. Continue. Two more. Feel the strength building in your quads and in your ankles and your core with this action. Now you're low enough now to grab the blocks, bring them beside your feet, and step your left leg back behind you. Once you step that left leg back behind you, make sure the right knee stacks over the ankle, your back thigh flex up towards the sky. All right, inhale, we're gonna straighten the right leg, square the hips. Exhale, lunge the knee and lift your head. Inhale, straighten the leg, lower the head. And then lunge the knee and lift the gaze. Do one more of those. And now slowly descend your back knee, shin, and foot to the floor. Okay. Inhale, we're bringing both arms up, but you're pushing down through your right foot to climb up to higher ground. Exhale, hands together, and then you're going to sink back through your hips. Good. Inhale, arms lift. Pelvic floor draws up. Exhale, hands together and surrender. Good, one more. Now, you're gonna find a halfway point between those two. All right, so you're pushing into your right foot and you're drawing up through the pelvic floor. Try to twist to your right, allowing the left elbow to come to the outer edge of the knee. If that is not comfortable for your shoulders, for your chest, for your belly, take your left hand down and your right hand to your hip. Maybe that's a better twist. Does that feel better? Yeah. I think that's for me too. Good. Exhale. Let's lower the right hand down. Curl the back toes under. Pluck up the back knee. When you're ready, step the back foot ahead. Fold down to Uttanasana. Let your head get heavy. Nod your head one way or the other. Nothing and no one on this earth can hold me down. We're back, including the ego. Inhale, come back to chair. Exhale, breathe it out. We're just doing 3, 2 more. Stay low, bring the hands to the blocks. This time, the right foot's gonna step back. The left foot's gonna stay in front. Find whatever height of the blocks you need, because we're gonna straighten the left leg, square the hips. The right hip is rolling towards the front of your mat. And then you can bend the knee. The head is up when you bend the knee. The head spills down when you straighten the front leg. Taking one on the in breath, taking the other on the out breath. It really doesn't matter which way you flow. It can really make sense either way. Now sink the back knee, shin and foot. Coming into the half lunge, inhale, push down through the left foot heavily, build up to the pelvic floor, Anjaneyasana. Exhale, hands together and melt down. Again, inhaling up. Exhale, lower. One more. Find the halfway points and twist off to your left. Check in to see how that feels. You may need to lower the right hand and stack your left hand to your waist. Exhale, release out of the twist. Separate the blocks away, plant the palms, curl the back toes, step it into plank. Exhale, sink your knees and fold back to child's. We're going to keep this moving though. Inhale, table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, table. Exhale, untuck the toes, stretch back. Extended child's pose. Continue in breath to table. Out breath to downward facing dog. In breath to table. Exhale, extended child's pose. We're going to change up this last one. Inhale, table. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale to table, but this time keep the toes curled and press back like extended child's pose. And that way we're working the feet a little bit more. Think about the feet, right? Part of the first chakra. We've already worked the hamstrings and the legs a little bit, but that's our conditioning. It's our family roots. What do we need to shed from that may be affecting the ego? Inhale, rock up hands and knees. Untuck the toes and come safely to a prone position with your hands lodged up underneath the shoulders and chest. Let the shoulders roll back away from your ears. Let your elbows squeeze in towards your side ribs. Let your legs lift and lengthen back behind you and come up to Cobra or Sphinx. I'll let you choose. I was gonna do Cobra and I changed my mind. You can do either or, but let your legs be active, let your glutes get strong. Let your back strengthen, let your heart open. Rising up to greet each and every new opportunity. Exhale, hands slide back, forehead rolls down. Inhale, push up to all fours. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right, so we're going to move in towards a pigeon pose. And I know some of you do the recline version, but we did that as a warm-up. So try deer pose if pigeon doesn't work well for you. For those going into pigeon, you're going to bring your right knee and shin all the way to the front, behind your hands. If you're coming to deer, follow my instruction the same way. And when your back knee lands, if you need deer pose, you're going to plop down to your right hip. And you're going to be kind of angled this way. If you're ready for the pigeon pose, you're going to stretch the left leg back, keep the hips centered, and then bring it on down through the front side. Lowering down to your level of availability and flexibility. So if you look at psychology, in psychology, they say the beginning of the ego starts around age 7. Age 6 or 7 is where the ego begins to develop. And think about how it gets even stronger in those impressionable adolescent years. And think about how it carries onward into adulthood. Even think of your practice, your yoga practice, whether or not you have that competitive nature. Maybe the competitive nature's with your own self. Maybe it's competitive nature with others. I tell students all the time that are newbies, they're like, I can't do that. How can you do that? I'm like, I gotta remember, I've been doing yoga for 20 years. I couldn't do all this stuff 20 years ago, even though I was younger. And there's some things that I could do younger that I can't do now because my body has changed and I've aged. I've gone through a lot of stuff. And that stuff and stress affects the body. So where is that ego showing up in your life? In that Reiki Master training yesterday, there was some women discussing how things were showing up and they were becoming more intuitive and they had these new gifts like appearing, And there was a woman who spoke up and said, well, I'm not getting any of that. I got nothing. And I was trying to share with her that it's okay if you're not getting anything because I haven't spoken up yet. I'm not getting all the great insights they're getting either. I'm still benefiting from it. I'm still learning a lot. Where does that cross comparison show up? On your next in-breath, we're slowly going to come up. And as we start to come up, those of us that were in pigeon, we're going to lean on to that right hip. And those in deer, you're going to slide your right foot forward and your left knee ahead too a little bit. So bring your left knee a little bit more forward. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So it's kind of like a half pigeon, but we're going to take a twist. So we're going to, y'all will be revolving this way towards the door. And I'm going to be revolving towards you. So you lift up and you're twisting towards your right hip. Yeah. And you're just going to walk your forearms down. I'm getting where I love this pose. And you can go deeper if you want, but to me right now, this is like the perfect space to be in. Good. Inhale it slowly back away. Turn back to face the front side of your mat. We're going to slide the left leg back, plant the palms in front so we can step back to downward facing dog. And pause here in downward facing dog. And remember that this was one of the primary poses for the sixth chakra. And the sixth chakra goes back to the sixth sense, our intuitive guidance. But it also opens up our view of things. It helps us to see things differently from a new perspective. And that's what we need when we're studying the Kleshas. And when you're ready, let's take it to the other side. So the left knee is going to come forward behind the hands. The right knee will drop. And then if you're going to pigeons, just slide the right leg back. If you're going to deer, just slowly drop onto the outer left hip. Okay. Pick your pose. Take it to the degree where you feel the stretch and where you can still openly breathe. Think about, we need a healthy ego. Right, so my son's like, you know, he's a drummer, so he's been moving towards becoming a better drummer. And he says he wants to be a musician. He's already been on stage. He wants to stay on stage. And I know that that requires keeping the ego in check. So the healthy part of the ego is it gives him confidence to be able to get up in front of people and play. The bad part of the ego would be if that were to make him inflate himself to think that he's the best drummer around, right? So you have to find the balance. The balance so that it's not creating suffering. Couple more breaths. On your next inhale, let's go ahead and start some lift. From that pigeon, you're going to lower to the left hip. And then everyone at this point, the right knee slides up and the left foot slides forward. Look like a half pigeon. Good, lift up through your crown, twist towards your left side, and walk down to Sphinx arms. And if you know another variation that you prefer, you can feel free to take it. Inhale, walk hands back in. We're going to swing that right foot around and back to the feet, but the toes are up. The hands are going to go up underneath the crease of the knees. Shoulders back, feet float. Your hands can be utilized to make it more gentle. And if you want to amp it up, you can straighten the arms. If you want to amp it up more, you can, yes. I was hoping someone would do it. Art is straightening his legs. So if you want to straighten your legs, you can. Now descend the feet. We're going to lower to the forearms, but this time they're behind us. And instead of slouching, we're lifting the chest up. We're going to flex and float the feet. And then slowly straighten out the legs, spread open through the toes. Draw in through your navel, but keep your heart up. It's a little more gentle variation of the full boat. Go ahead and lower the feet down, come back up, because we're going to set up for a restorative pose now with the blocks and with the bolster. Does anybody need anything? Here, take these. They're more stable. Thanks. So basically, stack your two blocks. Bring the bolster on top. Scoot in a little closer so your calves rest. This is called Stonehenge. If you're at home, you're welcome to lie on the floor, take your legs up to a chair, to a sofa, footstool. You have choices, options. Think about what you may potentially cling to that's changing. From the aging and appearance of your body to career, to home. Remembering that we are not our jobs, we are not our house, we are not our car, we are not our money, we're not our personality, race, or gender. And so for the remainder of this practice, drop in and peel back the layers of all of that. Coming into this simple idea of just I am. I am enough, I am worthy, I am loved. I am. Recognizing that you're not the ego, but spirit. You are not your mind or body. You are spirit. You hear me? Lunge. Turn home to your breath. What's the quality of the breath, the depth of the breath? Bring a little movement to your hands and feet. From there, close the knees to your chest. My true radical self-acceptance. Turning over to one side of your body. Coming upright to sit. We're going to go a little different direction with this topic on Wednesday, where we will be doing all restorative yoga because it's actually landing on the full moon as well. Bringing your hands now up to prayer position to close out today's practice. The light in me honors and respectfully bows to the beautiful light within each of you. Thanks you guys for joining.
Today is full moon.